Hello and welcome to Mindful Mondays. Somewhere in the middle of my 15-year run of singleness after my divorce, I was in a Sunday school class one morning and we were talking about prayer. And most of the class were couples. So there were just two single people in the room. I was one of them and the other was a man. And I was just watching and I was mostly listening, and the other single person raised his hand and he asked, "How many couples in this room pray together?" So I looked around the room to see who would raise their hands, and nobody did. Not even the pastor who was teaching the class or his wife. And let me tell you, that was one of the most discouraging moments in my single life. I had been growing in my faith. I had been dreaming that maybe someday I would have a spouse that loved the Lord, and that we would follow the Lord together, live out our faith together, and that would for sure include praying together regularly. But here in the Sunday school room, it looked like that dream was just a silly fantasy. Like it was not realistic at all, and I was devastated. And I could see that the guy who asked the question wasn't taking it very well either. The pastor looked embarrassed, and the room was pretty quiet until someone just, changed the subject. So that reality shocked me back then, but in the years since, I've seen enough to know that it wasn't an unusual room. Lots of couples don't pray together, and not even inside the church, even in people who are pursuing the Lord, a lot of couples just don't pray together. In many cases, one partner in the relationship wants to pray together, wishes they would pray together, but the other doesn't, and that can really cause a resentment in a marriage. I think in a lot of those cases, one half of the couple is waiting for the other to take the initiative, take charge, and get the ball rolling. And I think that in a lot of those cases, couples aren't praying together because one or both of them is intimidated about the prospect of praying aloud. So how do you move past waiting for the other person to start? How do you climb over that mountain of intimidation? I suspect that the first fear is most people aren't very comfortable praying aloud around other people. You feel like you don't know how to say the right words, like your prayers will be clumsy or awkward. You'll run out of things to say. You'll say the same things over and over, like you'll just seem dumb. So here are some ideas to help you get started if you're stuck. First of all, you don't have to start with praying aloud together. You can pray silently together. It's a great place to start. And I would suggest that if you do this first, that before you pray silently together, you share with one another the things you want to make sure that you're praying about. The stuff that's on your mind, from your child's illness or a bit of difficulty at work, a decision that has to be made. Simply sharing your prayer concerns with one another before you pray silently together is a great way to get started on that and to get you on the same page. If you're already praying silently together, here's a way to move it up a notch. Write down a list of stuff that you want to pray about. And it can just be like words and phrases. It doesn't have to be big, long, explanatory sentences. And then just take turns praying just one sentence over each item. And just make that the rule. I can only pray one sentence. That way you don't get stuck in the how many words does this need to be? Not big, long prayers, no fancy words, no big, deep theological concepts. It's just a single, easy, one-sentence prayer for each item on the list in a regular tone of voice with normal words you would use with each other, and you're taking turns so as soon as I do my part, I get a break while he does his part before I need to do my part again. And I would also suggest that you can use scripture verse as a script. So if you don't know what verse to start with, you can Google scriptures of blessing, and you'll get tons of lists of useful scriptures that are great to pray over one another, over your kids, over your family, over your neighborhood, over your coworkers, whoever you want to pray with together, pray about together. Then you just insert the name of your spouse, you insert the name of whoever you're praying for right into that scripture of blessing, and you have a ready-made prayer, and you don't have to worry about the words. And again, it doesn't have to be long. Long is not better. So if you really want to pray together, what if your partner just will not step up to the plate? First of all, I would say do not make this into a battle royale. Angrily insisting or guilt tripping are terrible ways to get anyone to do anything, and especially to get them to pray. Pray for your spouse on your own, and pray for wisdom and pray for gentleness for yourself while you're dealing with the situation. Offer to pray for your spouse without making a demand or expectation on them that they return the favor. Just create that space over time. Make it a comfortable place by praying for them. That might open the door for that where it's not open right now. When you pray for your spouse or where your spouse can hear, keep your prayers short, keep them simple, keep them in regular language, pray the same way you talk. It's less intimidating that way, and they're more likely to join you, and God does not need your fancy verbiage. You're more likely to draw your spouse into praying if you lay down all expectations and just cheerfully love them where they are. Don't ask every day. Keep your invitations light. Leave a lot of room in between them. And, just let the Lord work. And for heaven's sake, whatever you do, I beg you, do not criticize the way they pray ever. That's not the whole encyclopedia on how to start praying with your spouse, but hopefully these few little nibbles of information will give you a place to get started. As I'm putting this video together, I'm praying for you that God will bring about the practice of praying together in your marriage if you are a married person. And if you're a single person, I'm praying for you that the person that you get comes ready to pray with you already. That's all for this episode of Mindful Mondays. Don't give up. Be mindful, be intentional, be gentle, and see where that might take you in praying with your spouse.